reminders, even if we are able to control the virus and grow our economy, much remains to be done. The virus is still here and continues to be a threat to our people and nation. Kaya pagpatuloy po natin ang mask, hugas, iwas, bakuna, importante, protection. I hope that everybody would take this advice para malayo sa disgrasya. Ganun na lang. Pababa na ang COVID. At yung mga positivity rate, mababa na rin. Lahat bumaba na. It's up for us really to just take care na hindi tataas ulit. So that you have to obey what government would tell you to do because it is for the good of the country and for you. Sumunod lang po kayo. Mababa na ngayon. If we follow, there is really a resulting good that would happen. Kita mo yung mga vaccination natin. Sumunod kayo. So, mahina ang transmission kasi wala na. Puro may depensa na yung katawan. So, nagkaroon tayo ng improvement and even the economy nag-improve despite of the pandemic. So, yan ang tandaan ho ninyo.
The News Day continues here on One News Now. I'm Charles Lejano. Former Ilocos Norte Representative Rudy Fariñas is coming out of retirement and is now gunning for the gubernatorial seat in his province, challenging the incumbent governor Matthew Marcos Manotoc. Fariñas beat the deadline for substitution as he replaced Junerner Jacinto of Partido para sa Demokratikong Reforma. This reignites the rivalry between the two political clans of Ilocos Norte, a repeat of the 2019 elections. Fariñas was supposed to run against Marcos Manotoc in the last midterm polls, but the veteran politician later withdrew his candidacy, leaving the other unopposed. Marcos Manotoc is the son of Senator Amy Marcos and the grandson of the late dictator Ferdinand Marcos. Last-minute presidential aspirant and retired Lieutenant General Antonio Parlade says part of his campaign is shielding the AFP from political interventions. On One News' The Chiefs, Parlade says political pressures continue to undermine the armed forces over the past 5 years under President Duterte, and he says that he wanted to run for president to put a stop to what he calls political circus in the country. Parlade also believes that Duterte's performance as president is affected by the, quote, intramurals happening around him. And the former Anti-Communism Task Force spokesperson has also earlier claimed that presidential aspirant and Senator Bongo is controlling the president. But Parlade says he's already talked with Go about this, but refused to give details about their conversation.
Laki ng inabot ng yung reform sa armed forces natin, yung Army Transformation Roadmap, yung AP Transformation Roadmap, Sale Plan ng Navy and the Flight Plan of the Philippine Air Force. Talagang naka-take off yun ng gusto. To the point na sa ngayon nga, napakataas ng trust rating ng armed forces. Number one sa lahat ng agencies ng gobyerno. So what I'm saying is, the systems are in place, all these reforms are in place, but sometimes nagkakaroon kami ng problema because there are some intervention from the outside. Hindi lang nagsasalita kasi ang armed force ako, retired na ako. We still need to strengthen many of these systems in the organization. Until such time siguro na talagang totally shielded na kami from political and partisan affairs and external intervention.
Kilusang bagong lipunan defend their presidential bet Ferdinand Marcos Jr. against his disqualification case. In a statement, KBL party chairman and President Efren Rafanan said that no court has ever penalized Marcos with a disqualification case. And Rafanan added that the Supreme Court has already ruled that the non-filing of ITR does not involve moral turpitude. He also claimed that technically the petition to cancel Marcos' COC must be dismissed because the petitioners failed to comply with the deadlines outlined in the COMELEC's Rules of Procedure. Aksyon-Demokratiko's campaign manager believes Manila Mayor Isko Moreno stands to gain more votes if Marcos Jr.'s COC gets canceled. Lito Banayo says BBM supporters will likely shift to Moreno instead of going to rivals Leni Robredo and Manny Pacquiao. But even if Marcos Jr.'s COC doesn't get canceled, Banayo says he has high hopes for Moreno.
So it's a long way. It's a long way to go. No, if you know what you're doing, no, and if you have a candidate who can communicate very well, and I think most of you will agree na Isko communicates pretty well, especially to the common folks. I think I'm pretty confident na at the end of the day, he will be the next president of the Philippines.
Former Ateneo School of Government Dean Tony Laviña is likewise not counting out Isko in next year's polls. Laviña observes that Moreno's camp is good at grassroots campaigning and says this is something that the other candidates can improve on.
I wouldn't rule out Isko even if in this latest because magaling siya magkampanya on the ground. You have seen na magaling siya kumilos sa mga citizens, no? Very effective siya.
Carlo Nograles is now the acting presidential spokesperson. President Rodrigo Duterte announced this after Harry Roque filed his certificate of candidacy for senator yesterday. Duterte said that Nograles will be working as the palace spokesperson until they find a replacement for Roque. Nograles is currently the cabinet secretary.
By the way, Carlo, si Roque, Secretary Roque, nag-file ng certificate niya. Once you file your certificate of candidacy, automatic yan, out ka sa gobyerno. No other formal ritual is needed except when you file, you cease to be a government employee. So, kung maaari, ikaw na lang sana ang acting na muna until we find a replacement. I do not want to burden you with so much, alam ko yung paperwork dadaan sa.
After almost 2 years, students are now back in physical classrooms. But students in Pangasinan found that the campus they went back to no longer resembled the school that they knew before the pandemic. JC Cosico with the story.
Marilu's kids, Dylan and Paul Jake, are now back to school after almost 2 years of distance learning. Aside from their uniforms, they also wore face masks and shields.
Excited po at nakapasok na po ulit sa school. Makakapag-aral na po kami.
Yung turo ng guro po talagang maaasa po yung mga utak ng mga bata.
Longos Elementary School is among the 100 schools approved for the pilot run of face-to-face classes. Students are required to wash their hands, undergo thermal scanning, and have their IDs with QR codes scanned for contact tracing. Safety markers and signages are also installed in and outside the classrooms. There's an isolation area for those who will exhibit COVID-19 symptoms. Plastic barriers are installed between teachers and students. Teacher Diana admits that teaching while wearing a face mask is challenging.
Pag nagsasalita ka, yung laway mo and then yung moist ang hirap po.
But she says face-to-face classes are better. Some parents agree.
Meron pong internet, mahina lang po ang signal, kaya mas maganda po talaga ang face-to-face.
Out of 83 kinder to grade 3 students of the school, 80 will participate for the pilot run. All teaching and non-teaching personnel are fully vaccinated against COVID-19.
Here in the area, wala naman po kaming cases, and the entire Alaminos, we only have 4 cases left. So hopefully this will continue.
DepEd is reminding school heads that the vicinity should be free from the presence of armed combatants. This came after a uniformed personnel with a firearm was seen inside the school. The agency clarified that he was part of the security detail of a local executive. The DepEd says over 5,000 students are expected to participate in the pilot run, which will run for 2 months. For News 5, JC Cosico, We Are One News.
The much-anticipated Netflix film about the creator of hit musical Rent is coming to your screens this Friday. Details on this and other shows to look forward to in this report from MJ Marfori.
What will you do with the time you have? That is the pressing question of the film Tick, Tick, Boom. The film marks the directorial debut of Pulitzer Prize, Tony, and Grammy Award winner Lin-Manuel Miranda.
It felt so powerful and affirming to be making art in one of the most challenging times in our world's history and fighting for the importance of art in these times.
Did you know that Miranda's brainchild, the mega hit musical Hamilton, was inspired by Tick, Tick, Boom's original Broadway staging?
When I first saw Tick, Tick, Boom, it strengthened my resolve to do this, to try and do this for a living, or at least do it every day, even if no one ever paid me to write songs.
Andrew Garfield stars as Jonathan Larson, the man behind the hit musical Rent. Anime fans, make some noise! The live-action version of the neo-noir sci-fi anime series Cowboy Bebop is up for release this week. Considered one of the greatest animes of all time, the series boasts of a diverse cast, headed by John Cho as the spunky Spike Spiegel and Mustafa Shakir as ex-cop Jet Black.
The weird vision was a completely white world, you know, in film and television that didn't match reality. To me, that didn't seem to be the world I lived in. So this feels refreshing in that it feels so normal.
You know, we have to reflect reality, and I think that's what we're doing.
Joining them is Daniela Padilla. Cowboy Bebop revolves around space bounty hunters who hunt down criminals across the solar system. The series drops on November 19 on Netflix. For News 5, MJ Marfori, We Are One News.
Here's a quick look at some of today's headlines. Former broadcaster Rafi Tulfo tops the most recent SWS senatorial survey, commissioned by Strat-based ABR Institute. President Duterte approves the recommendation to ease restrictions on the use of face shields, particularly in areas under alert levels 1 to 3. And PBA action is back this month with its inaugural 3x3 tournament. And those are the top stories at this hour. Join us later at 10:45 a.m. as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. You can also catch One News on Signal Play. Just register for a free account at www.signalplay.com so you can stream One News live anytime and anywhere. I'm Charles Lejano. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.